Alexa. That's LaToya.
And this is Tech Beats and Bytes.
What's going on? What's going on?
Oh, it's Wednesday. What y'all doing in the internet?
Look, man, look. So I don't know if you was watching. I just want everybody to know we did not wear military green in support of Melania and her Nazi outfit that she had on last night for her RSV.
No, I haven't. So no.
You didn't watch it?
Uh-uh.
I watched about a minute of it. I saw her outfit and I was like, I'm out. Her outfit looked way militant. It really looked like she about to go to war with our people. So I can't watch this.
Uh-huh.
I can't stand her reading either. Her cadence of how she reads annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you just know her and Trump never read bedtime stories to Bear.
Right. They're like, do it yourself.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. The nanny will be here in just a little bit. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So, you know, COVID is still killing people, taking lives. The world is still out of order. I haven't seen anything great happen besides Nas's album that came out last week.
And I haven't listened to it yet. I need to listen to Nas. I need to listen to Lupe. Yes.
Brandy's album was dope too.
Yeah. I heard it was okay. I haven't heard hers yet. So because I heard it was okay, I didn't like rush to listen to it.
Well, look, I'm going to definitely order the LP.
Yeah.
And the cassette tape and the T-shirt of Nas's album.
Nas.
Yeah, I'm getting the paraphernalia. I'm getting the paraphernalia.
Speaking of hip hop, you saw that they're auctioning off Biggie's crown.
Why?
Just I caught a snippet of it, but they were saying that they're auctioning off his crown, the crown that he wore for the infamous photo that like everybody reproduces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's signed on the inside. So if somebody want it, y'all better go ahead and put your bid in.
Give that to his daughter. Don't nobody need that, man.
Maybe they're raising money for something. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch all of it.
Hope he got it. Sell some Ciroc bottles and give whoever need that money. So Nas's stuff was painted. I don't know her name. I think I know her as Honey because I think that's her Instagram name.
Mm-hmm.
But the artist that painted that, she does a lot of I paint in that genre and I can't think of it, but it's like your 16th century, your Greek goddess and stuff. She paints and repaints all that artwork and she puts Black people into it.
So in there a little bit. So his twist on neoclassical art. And all
correct.
That. Gotcha.
So she does that with all her stuff. So she's a dope artist. So if you guys like that cover, you should go follow her art. And a lot of her stuff she actually does prints for, so you can actually get her art. She's an amazing artist. I follow her on Instagram. And as soon as I saw her unveil, I saw the unveiling of the art piece, but saw it before I even thought Nas had an album coming out. So I knew I was going to get the LP just so I could have that piece, because basically you get the LP just to frame the LP.
Right.
So, and for the young people out there, LP is a vinyl. Right. So that was amazing. So I haven't really seen anything going on. Streets are kind of dry besides the fact of
besides the protesting.
Yes.
That's still happening with the cops.
I'm like, unfortunately, it's nothing new. We've been protesting all year, it seems like. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, Harmonia. Yes. Honey. Yeah, Honey is on her Instagram. That's what I know her as. HONEIEE on Instagram. But she's an amazing, amazing artist. So we have the protest, Jacob Blake, Anthony McLean.
Yep.
Now we have a vigilante that's out there that's killing people at the protests. So we have
the undercover cops that are now jailing protesters and activists. The Color of Change sent an email out, was it yesterday, I believe, where they were talking about in the Hillsborough County area, so that's like Tampa, one of their sort of community agents or activists was apprehended by the police just for being at her home. They said that somebody came, knocked on her door, posed as like some sort of a service person, right? So they're coming in like AC, something like that. And then a bunch of like cops just ran in and apprehended her. So apparently, and I heard it this morning on The View as well, I believe they were just talking about that, like secret police just taking activists into jail. And there's been a lot of sort of conversation about that on social media about freeing Black women activists, and then just bring activists as well.
Speaking of Black women, Tory Lanez got outed. Meg Thee Stallion put it out there that he shot her. So I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have an opinion about that. You shoot somebody, you go to jail. That's it. So that's how I see it. How they deal with that is how they deal with that. But in better news, speaking of Black kings and Black queens, we have a king on the show. And I'm going back to what Nas said. I'm going back to his old album. Every time I see a Black man from now on, it's just going to be Peace King. So bringing on a king to the show, Black Men Rising. We got Brackeen from Lightship.
Man, that was a hell of a transition. You really pulled that off, bro. I mean, from something so dark to my intro. I appreciate you, boy.
Hey, bro, you gotta, we take them where we gotta take them. It's like we're doing a reverse of what the news cycle do. We do 20% dark and then we do 80% light.
Right.
Get all the negative stuff out the way out the gate. Yeah. Death, Black people dying, death. But we got Brian.
Here's the good news.
So it's crazy to even talk like that. That's the crazy part.
The world is crazy.
I think it's even sadder that it's becoming normal. Like we almost have to do this for the intro of every show. Because I mean, the thing is, although we are tech and beats, we still got to get people to bites of information of what's going on. And this is what 2020 has consumed us: pandemic and getting killed on camera.
Yeah, literally.
It's a horror movie. Like now, after watching Power yesterday, with Jamie Foxx, it's like I wish people did have that drug so we can just stop stuff for about 5 minutes and fix all these things. Like
right, not Power book, because I thought you was talking about phase 2 of Power, but you talking about the movie.
Yeah, right. The movie. Yeah, I just wish we had that little pill. And Brian, which one of your companies you invested into got a pill close?
Not yet, but if I had one, I'd be rich. I can tell you that.
So I always tell people, we know you, a lot of people know you, but some people that are watching us may be watching for the first time and have no idea who you are. You mind giving us a small intro and telling the world exactly what you're doing now?
I would assume most people don't know who I am. Now, what is that a notification? I thought this is your your show, man.
We are professionally unprofessional, but you see, it's that was Outlook letting me know you're supposed to be filming right now.
So first of all, we all know each other well enough that we can make fun of each other on the show. That's the first part of the bio. But my name is Brackeen. I'm the general partner of a venture capital fund called Lightship Capital. We invest in women and minorities in the Midwest and South. We believe that a couple things. One, there's too much money in like New York and San Francisco, and not enough money goes to where the rest of us live. Number two, women and minorities are underinvested, right? I actually said on Twitter the other day, underinvested and over-mentored, right? So if we can make so much out of so little. If you just give a little bit of capital, just someone's just fair shot of an investment, they can do huge things. And so we invest between $250,000 and $500,000 in a company in the first round, and then we invest another $1 to $1.5 million about a year later, and then we'll invest in 6 of the companies. We'll invest another $3 million a year after that. So like real money for companies, not just.
Oh, so you like actually care about people
and believe enough in them to invest money in them. Yes.
Let me tell you one thing. I'm so proud and so happy of what you're doing, but I'm so disgusted that people can't see this as a successful format and that you had to go through everything you're going through just to make it happen. What was the journey like to raise the money? Because I mean, sitting on 50 bands, I don't even know if we call them bands at that point.
Bands? Yeah. What's the slang term for billion or for million?
I'm not street enough, brother. I'm just not right now. That's not my thing. I listen to hood music and go eat in the hood and then I come home. Because ain't nothing better than hood chicken wings. But how did you, to get $50 million, what was that journey like?
Well, it's a really good transition from what you were saying. I think the world as it is today aided us in our ability to raise the fund. So it started with 2019, early 2020. We finished all of our documentation, all of our legal docs and everything, and we decided to go out and raise a $20 million fund for this work that I just described, right? And we raised about for the first $10 million or so just from our networks and people who had seen what we've done before. I run the fund with my wife, Candace, so she has a great track record as well.
Peace,
and
queen.
then COVID hit.
Right.
And so a lot of investors were saying, if you look back on Twitter, like, oh, I'm going to pause, I'm going to stop, I'm going to slow down. We saw it as an opportunity to talk to anyone in the world on Zoom. Like, we should be going faster. We should be talking to more people. And so we took the opposite approach, and ultimately it was very successful. And we got to about maybe $15 million raised. And then right after that, if we all know, that's when the George Floyd murder happened. And so a lot of people who we were already talking to because of the COVID situation were like, you know what, we're going to double down. A great example of that is one of our investors is Delta Dental, the big, the people that you pay in your insurance for your dental insurance. They have a new $200 million kind of group for investing in different things, and it's stocks, bonds, all kinds of stuff. And so it's a brand new group. They took the first few investments to this investment committee saying, hey, these are things we want to do first. And one, they said, no, or just no, you can't invest in that thing. Two, they said, these two are home runs. And three, the Black Venture Capital Fund, that's good, looks good. Finish the first two first, and then you can invest in them after, right? Then George Floyd gets murdered. Members of the board called our contact direct, middle of the night. Listen, you know that black fund you were talking about? Let's have an emergency board meeting. This doesn't mean quarterly. Let's have an emergency board meeting. We can approve that investment. You can make that investment right away. Make that the first one. And we became their first investment instead of their third. So I think people woke up to the idea, including their CEO, that we have to play an active role. And so now we have a bunch of really great investors, and we're really over. We're well over a $20 million goal. The cap was 50 million in the doc, so that's where we stopped, and we're already starting to look at raising the next fund for late 2020, maybe 2021, it'll be $100 million fund. Same.
So with this whole thing, right? Because we've seen a lot of grants pop up, we've seen a lot of interest in terms of funding Black business, and a lot of people are calling it white guilt dollars. What's your thought on it in terms of entrepreneurs taking advantage of it or being like, nah? Because there's been conversation on both sides.
I don't understand the nah at all. Right? Just like, I don't understand that mentality.
Right, you took some.
It is so hard to get $1 out of somebody's pocket. It is hard to get $1, like a single dollar, out of somebody's pocket, right? And so whatever leverage you can use, particularly when it's leverage that you're owed, right? You're flat out owed from before. Your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, you name it, all that dollar was held from them, right? If you can actually get it, then get the dollar and do something with it. And it's your responsibility, I think, to do something great with it too. So
if George Floyd doesn't pass, George Floyd isn't murdered, where do you think you stand with your fund right now today?
Well, sadly, there would have been plenty of other names that you could use, right? There have been plenty of other examples. I think that people were fed up, and it could be Breonna Taylor. It could be you pick the person. I think we're all tired, and I mean this for white Americans as well. Like, I think everyone's just tired of all that's going on, and so if you watch the RNC convention, it's not everybody, but some folks are willing to really kind of put their money where their mouth is.
And I always tell people, I think it was the basis of the time, and it wasn't anything that, it was particularly something that made George Floyd unique.
Sure.
And I want some people to understand that was because you were able to capture the complete murder on camera. So you have to watch something for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and then so truthfully, you're talking about 10 minutes of footage. That's daunting. And a lot of people don't understand right now, all people probably need some form of PTSD, especially Black people, because we're watching horror movies in real life, and we know we're the subject matter of that person to get murdered. We're like the white girl in the beginning of the screen that always trips, and she's going to die. And it's like, that's how you feel. It's like, it's so messed up that we're like, oh, wow, we at least had one to live when we think about Jacob Blake. Like, that's what it's coming down to. So I do believe the timing might have helped, but I wonder, and Toya, you made a good point. Is it guilt, or is it the fact that since it was the pandemic, it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds, it was enough time to make people realize how real what Cap was kneeling for actually meant?
No, I definitely think his particular situation got a lot of attention from a lot of different people than some others have. And you have to think about his twin, and his name escapes me, but the NBA ex-player, right?
Oh, I know you're talking about, yeah.
So there's that, right? You have someone who people look to, who people feel is credible, and so he's lending personality and character to George Floyd, and he's like, no, you're not going to paint him as X. You're going to see him as this. This is his daughter, and I'm going to take care of her.
Right. So see him as a father.
Narrative that he's like, nope, you're not doing that. You can't come over here with that. So then it shapes him into someone different. And I think that also allowed other people to sort of latch on to who he was and what that was. And he became a symbol. I think that was a large part of it, because if you just look at other people, oftentimes the media can paint them however they want to paint them. And you have the family speaking out. But then it doesn't sway the public's opinion of how they try to paint these people. So I think that was something unique about George Floyd's situation too.
Mm-hmm. But in a more positive light, Brian, tell us about the kind of companies that you're actually looking for, because you've been able to make this amazing transition during where I always say this is actually what I've seen in the pandemic. You have people that's either eating or people that are starving. I haven't seen a lot of middle ground. I've seen things just flourish and people go to the next level, or some people can't deal with the pressure and they're crumbling. And I mean, it makes sense. Some people aren't going to be built to make it out of this. Some people they're just mentally, the success for them is just going to be to stay alive and to stay mentally okay. And I want some people to understand that's watching. Everybody is not meant to flourish in these times. Some staying alive is your flourishment. That is a goal to be met. That is a goal to be reached every day, to just stay alive and be happy. But you have all these amazing companies coming to you and people are still growing. What kind of companies do you have coming to you? What are they looking like?
We take about 2,000 inbound applications a year for investment.
Wow.
So we get all types. We invest only in 5 areas. We invest in CPG, which we love. Again, this is something that we do really well. In the African
everybody doesn't know what you're talking about, so you got to break down the acronyms.
So you want to break it down? I saw you.
Just tell me.
Right, so that's Unilever, that's Procter & Gamble, all the stuff in your kitchen, in your bathroom.
She knows no something about it, so I just wanted to really let her know.
Right. Well, you got one of those out there. She in that world right now.
That's right. That's her whole.
Okay, so CPG. Go ahead.
CPG, artificial intelligence, because I have a background in that, obviously. Also, e-commerce, sustainability, and healthcare.
Okay.
So we do those 5 things well. Also, in this part of the country, the Midwest and the South, we have a lot of strong either university relationships, healthcare systems, right? You name it. So we do well all around in those areas. So yeah, we made a bunch of investments so far. We've already talked about those. One's a company called Fresh Fry. It's a pod, like a Tide Pod or like a dish, you just drop it in the cooking oil. It sucks up all the impurities, all the dirt, everything overnight. And the next day you just throw it away. Expanding the life of the cooking oil by about 40% and saving a restaurant or a commercial fryer.
That don't work for a restaurant. My grandma would be like, "What you doing to my oil, baby?"
So this is exactly what we're talking about. Black chemist, Louisville, Kentucky, a guy named Jeremiah Chapman. His grandmother used to put oil that she fried for fish in a jar, and she would put a potato in it to take the fishy smell out of it, right? So this is again where like African American culture creates something, right? Mm-hmm. He gets obsessed with this as a child, becomes a chemist, right? And then builds this organic product, patents the product, and before getting any investment or very little investment, was in 3,500 restaurants before he even took an investor, right? So yeah, this is the kinds of really great and amazing products that our community is making.
That's an amazing story, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you would want to invest just because of the story, like knowing that you started off seeing that, because that's what it was. That fish fry grease, somebody threw that away on accident. Well, you didn't ruin the fish fry. Like,
right? I love it.
You couldn't even just say, "Oh, I'm about to run to the store and get some more grease." It ain't the same. It ain't
off the stove.
You just sit outside and don't be asking nobody for no food. We'll bring you your plate. Just sit over there.
Exactly. Peanut butter and jelly for you tonight. So
okay, you got any more examples? Because that's a dope one.
I do. We were the first institutional investors in that company. The next one is called Prove. I might have one here. Let me see a quick look. Oh, I sure do. I carry things around here. So Prove is a progesterone ovulation test. For many women know that progesterone is an important hormone for both getting pregnant and staying pregnant all the way to term. Also, it's an important hormone for understanding menopause as well. And so Dr. Amy Beckley, she had 7 miscarriages. Mm-hmm. And she was like, you know what? I'm a scientist. I'm going to solve my own problem. She goes off, buys a bunch of chemicals and things off the internet, goes into her basement, and in her basement, designs and builds a shelf-stable progesterone test for urine, right? Then passes her FDA 510K clearance by herself. Then puts it on Kickstarter by herself and sells $200,000 worth of kits by herself. Then goes to the JP Morgan Biotech Showcase, right? And says to a room full of almost 100 investors, maybe 70, 80 investors, whatever, and says, look, this is what I've done. I've got a patent. FDA cleared. Look at what I've done. Not a single one of the investors went to talk to her about investing, except for my wife, Candace, because they're a bunch of men and they could care less. They don't see it as a big problem, right? And so Candace, because we work a lot with Procter & Gamble, was like, listen, we know this is a big deal. We know that P&G been working on it. Let's work with you. Let's get you in there. Let's make an investment. We were our first institutional investor. We just invested some more. We'll be announcing that soon. But yeah, it's a huge, huge success. And there are literally thousands of babies in the world now because of that product that otherwise wouldn't have existed because male investors don't see the value in it. It's just another good example.
Wow.
And that's why funds like yours need to exist. That just proves the point.
Even if it's not just funds like yours, your fund needs to be the fund that has $500 million so you could make these wise investments because you have a different scope and a different spectrum of what you see and what you see for success. And I want people to be clear, although this is a Black-led fund, you are still not only investing into Black products, you're just making wise investments.
They're just good. Yeah, they're just good products led by underrepresented founders. Yeah. And we're going to make our money just like everybody else is going to make their money. But the products, so Morgan Stanley did a bit of research and showed that there's about $4 trillion in the economy that is just completely dark, right? Because the products don't exist because the people to make those products, women and minorities, don't have the funding to make those products, right? So progesterone and ovulation, these are problems, right? But men weren't solving the problem. The money's there, right? Like people will buy the product if it exists. It just needs to exist. So yeah, that's our whole fund.
So it's one of those things, what I can't see, I don't need to produce, and what doesn't affect me, I don't need to fix it.
And that's bias.
Yeah,
that's what bias is, right? All around.
And I think some people might need to understand that all bias is not racial bias, but it's just the bias of you not being able to accept those things that you can't understand. So if I have a conversation with someone about a product that they
you were asked what the name was, Prove.
Right, Prove. Right.
Go buy it. It's good for my investment. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's fine. No. We'll make sure. And it also runs again at 8:00, guys, if you want to see it all over there.
Come back.
So I think that's amazing. I would love to hear at least 2 more products, though. I know you have them written out of your notes. I want at least 2 more just to show the diversity of the scope of the things that you're doing.
I remember them all because I had to wire them all that money. So trust me, I don't have to.
Feels different to cut that check versus
it certainly does. It certainly does. We just led our first investment round with this next company. It's a company called Undock. And so Undock is what we call predictive scheduling.
Oh, that was the young black man you took a picture of. I just saw his photo shoot. Yes, I want to understand this. Go ahead. Yes.
There you go. So you know how, let's say we want to schedule like this time to all be together on the show, for instance. You send to me different times. I say, oh, this works, it doesn't work. Or you can send me a Calendly link, right? And I got to select from there. Undock says, okay, all you guys have Google Calendar and other things, right? We'll just go read all the calendars. And in my email to you, I can say, Mike, let's meet at this time. And you're already available at that time, right? In my email out. So predictive based on your calendar and my calendar. We don't have to go back and forth. I know you're free. And you can also say, I want to meet these times or that time. It looks at your schedule history and says, okay, he doesn't like meetings too early in the morning. I'm going to slot it in the afternoon. You know, whenever he talks to Brian, he wants to talk to Brian right away. But this person, he always puts him off, right? So it actually automatically, right, will start to do all those things for you. So amazing AI firm, black founder.
I feel seen and I feel called out at the same time.
No judgment here, bro. No judgment.
I don't like your post when people were like, when you were like, don't be just texting me and calling me. Brian don't answer my call because I don't call you that often. If I call you, know I'm trying to address it.
I answer call every time because it's
I will get that. You do. Now, a random question what you told me.
One real quick thing that's important about that. We led the round and he had a lot of offers from much bigger multi-billion-dollar venture capital funds. He chose us to lead because he wanted to make sure an African-American run venture capital fund made the most money at the end of the day when that company sells. So he took more money from us, and then Bessemer Venture Partners, which is a multi-billion-dollar venture fund, he took less from them. And Larry Hippo, which is they're huge in this space, multi-billion-dollar fund, took less from them. They allow us to make the terms and set the terms that are best for him. We'll take board seats. We'll look out for him, make sure he doesn't get removed from his company, all that stuff. So we're at a new place now where the best black companies will choose black venture capital funds, and the other ones that are majority led can just follow.
Awesome. So will this product work strategically with Calendly, or are you guys looking into that?
Yeah, it already does. So
I'm definitely. So when does it come out?
It's out.
Oh, okay. So we'll make sure that make that purchase today because I am not ready to pay for a personal assistant, but I
that one in the inbox.
Right. That's going to be all right. Give us another one. And I'm letting you guys know this is definitely a Brian Brackeen showcase. And the reason why is because we need upliftment. It's so much negative stuff. We don't need to focus on all that stuff. We want to focus on the upliftment of what we have people doing in our community. And Brian is part of our community. Whether he lives in 13 places now, he is still a South Florida community representative. So give us another one.
Always. Yeah. And I'm there all winter. So I'm going to give you a bunch of the next ones I give you are companies that we either have invested in and not announced or we're looking at. So I'm just want to say that up front. So yeah. The PR
right?
What'd you say?
These are exclusives?
Well, I'm saying the PR team likes to do a whole announcement, whatever. So I'm just, I'm just gonna
run that exclusive graphic real quick. Design one real quick now. Go ahead.
So there's a company that we love. It's called and actually I could get your help because you guys are like all about the culture. Some people say it's hot hijabs. Some people say it's hot, right? Like the high fashion.
Yeah.
It's hot, you said?
Yeah, like couture.
Okay, yeah. So, Hold Hijab.
Okay.
Again, amazing company. It's one of the America's the exclusive graphic lights. It's one of America's only hijab brands that are owned by Americans. They take stock from all kinds of amazing manufacturers and create hijabs. The other thing that they're doing coming up is making hijabs for athletic wear and sporting and all kinds of different events. So crushing it on revenue, just absolute sold all over the world. Very, very, very successful company. So we're super excited about that.
Okay.
We're looking at a company called Goal 5. Love these guys too. So women's, particularly soccer wear, but women's athletic wear, they do this thing called shrink in pink, which means you take a men's short, you make it smaller, and you make it pink, and you call it a women's short. But it's really just a men's pair of shorts, smaller and pink, right? Which is so offensive on every level. Everyone does it, Nike, Adidas, all of them. This is a brand of like soccer short and just apparel that is for women, designed by women. And for instance, with men, we have a little bit of extra appendage in the front, and women don't. So what's all this extra material, right? Right? And when you're running, it's just all this extra,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's designed the right way for women, and it again, selling like crazy, selling like insane. So yeah, it's companies like these that we love and that we want to support.
What do you see different with the morale with your beautiful wife, Candace, and you guys being the investors? Have you seen maybe a difference of the mental morale of knowing that you're getting money from, I would say, somebody that's not just interested in your company being successful, but somebody that's actually interested in you being successful as a human? Because I feel you guys have a more human approach. It's not just about the money, it's the actual success of the person you're investing into.
Yeah, we really care. We really do. We want to see that person successful. I did an op-ed that's coming out this week about Nash and Undocked. And what happens is sometimes, and this isn't everybody, right? We're just talking, but sometimes with some investors, they don't see themselves in Michael, right? A white woman investor may not see herself in LaToya, right? And so they don't create that bond, that connection, right? When I saw Nash, he was the CEO of Undocked, some of the things he did and says and mannerisms remind me of myself, right, at that stage. And then it was easy to kind of understand and remove the bias for me and see his business for what it is and see him as a transformational founder he is. He doesn't have to look like Mark Zuckerberg to be an amazing tech founder, right? So yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. The other part of it is the empathy side.
Mm-hmm.
I like to believe that we're more empathetic. Another company that we're investing in, or we're going, whatever, who knows? I'll just get in trouble. Who cares? Anyway, another company.
And that graphic, exclusive.
Allergy Amulet. Unbelievable. We'll post some links, the whole nine. This is like a piece of jewelry that you use to test the food for allergies. You literally you like poke the cupcake, you poke the food, and you put it into the jewelry, and it'll tell you if it's safe or not to eat. Like basically for allergies. Yeah. Yeah.
It's customized jewelry. It's a customized piece of jewelry that's specifically for you. So like if I have a gluten allergy, then it tests for gluten.
That's right. And it's a whole lab on your necklace, and small and pretty and like style. And for guys, it can go on your keychain, whatever.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it's 2,000% more accurate than it has to be based on the FDA requirement.
That'll save lives. That'll definitely save lives.
Yeah. And so some of us, what'd you say?
I was gonna say when you're talking about kids, because a lot of kids when we get back to some normalcy, right, where your kids can go to play dates and things like that, and you tell the parent, right, yeah, she has a peanut allergy, but they may forget, so then the child can then test food themselves. So I'm speaking from a parent, right? So that's pretty cool.
And I'm a parent as well, and so that's the thing. So we can empathize, right, with the founder, and we can see the need for that product.
So one of the things that when you were talking through a lot of the companies that you're investing in, you were talking about revenue is crazy. So with the companies that you like to invest in, do you sort of have a threshold for where you want them to be? Because I'm sure people watching, they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to be a part of their group. So how can you become a part of your being invested business?
I love when she sings the question like, group.
That's that Southern swag. Well, you got
exactly. So we invest probably between 1 and 3. Well, there's no top number, but $1 to $3 million of revenue. usually you've got a product, you have something, it's working, and now we're really good at like helping you really go fast. Like, let's put some money on it. Let's get you access to this, access to that. We're doing really kind of aggressive things like, let's see if we can get you a pop-up in Detroit and Chicago and this. And like, let's see if we can like really get entire communities rallied around your business, right? Let's see if we can bring you to Miami and then from there, Latin American expansion, right? Let's use all the things about our lives to help those companies and connections grow.
So, so they need to be 1 to 3 million post revenue, or could they have that in investments from other areas for you guys to have interest? Actual
revenue. So yeah, investments, it could be anything. Some of them are doing so well they haven't had an investment. They just make money and they're just like, it might be time to grow. But yeah, they have to have sold $1 to $3 million of product, whatever the product is.
So do you think you would ever come up with another fund that may focus on pre-revenue or more so launch products that haven't actually reached that threshold?
There's people that focus on pre-revenue that know more about it.
Okay.
I'm actually not very good at pre-revenue. I'm good at scaling, but we will be raising another fund for maybe larger geographic areas or bigger investments, right? So like,
hold on, I'm gonna put a pin in that. I want to do something that LaToya do. You got to explain to people that was an admittance of a weakness, an understanding of expertise. Can you explain to why you actually just made that statement of why you're better at scaling versus what would be predictive analysis of pre-revenue for companies to see if they're even going to be successful? Could you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, that's thank you. I didn't even realize I did it. So knowing my own strengths and weaknesses, I know that I'm best going to a conference room with someone in your team and plotting a strategy to get us over the hill, right? And there's so many problems, so many challenges in the beginning. Just what state should I file in, right? Like, what should I build this feature or that feature? What color should my product be? Like literally, like what color should my product be, right? I can't tell you, right? Like you have to figure out for yourself all of those things. But after the product exists and people love it and you got the color right and everything, come to me and we can sell. If you're already selling 1,000 of them, I can sell 10,000. If you're selling 1 million, I can sell 10 million. It doesn't matter, right? I can do 10x whatever you're doing as long as you're doing something.
And I think the reason why I wanted to point it out is because that was one of the points I know that you were trying to make that a lot of people miss with the urgency of foundations and organizations to put that money into companies that can help people win their pre-revenue versus when they've already made it. Because you need a design company, you need a marketing team to get them going to figure out quickly with A/B testing. This is working, this isn't working. This isn't your demographic, this is your demographic. But most of the time, due to the fact that Black people do not have that friends and family around, they need to be in a position where they can get the support from the community. And that's what foundations should be doing. You're not going to have $50,000 for brand development, website development, and because they are putting all their money into the product. But what happens is when you couldn't do that marketing testing, you couldn't do that information, the product comes off to be horrible, even though it's a great product, because that's still a very essential part. And like you said, that's not your thing. Your thing is, okay, you sold 100 of them, great. Next week, I'm going to sell 100,000 of them because you can scale quickly. But, oh, you're not sure what to call the product? You're not sure what the logo should look like? That's not my thing. Call Mike and come back to me when you're post-revenue.
Just call Mike.
And I think a lot of people that might have and may not have been able to see your conversation when we did our thing with WinCode, I wanted them to understand your frustration. Your frustration is we're not saying invest $50 million into companies that haven't made revenue. We're saying invest 5 to 10 million to give companies programs to get to the point of being able to make revenue. Level the playing field by making donations and giving money to allow them these opportunities, because you already know the disparities and the injustice that face these companies before they even get started.
Yeah, and then we can pick it up from there.
Yeah, and that's the handoff. The handoff is there. So why do you think there's such a hard understanding for people to understand the difference between equity, equality, and social injustice versus just being fair and equal? Why do you think there's such a hard understanding for those things?
this is just personal opinion. We've spent so much time asking for the nonprofit dollar, right? And the kind of poverty work. We just had this conversation with a big foundation. They want to give blankets to Black people that are impoverished, and they want to do meals, and that's all God's work. Don't get me wrong. Like that can't stop. People will die if it stops. But when someone comes to you with a plan to help someone within their business and help them employ people in that community, right? We know that women and minority founders are more likely to employ women and minorities in these communities and create living wages. They're more likely to pay a full living wage versus the $7 an hour or whatever it is, right? So if that's the case, if you want to really change poverty in a city, you should be investing at least some money into business scaling and business, like not just business creation, but business scaling, right? And this foundation, they were like, our funders only want us to do the poverty work, and we just cannot. They were one of the people that we had wanted to invest, and they decided not to invest because they're so wrapped up on the poverty work, and they don't want to give any money to investment. And I read them the riot act about you think you're helping, you're actually the problem. Like you're actually people keeping people down.
You know what I feel that is comparative to? When I hear you say that, the poverty work to me reminds me of the dope dealers that give out turkeys for Thanksgiving, as if you just disregard all the people you've killed and how much you've hurt the neighborhood, and you make everything okay by giving away these turkeys. But as soon as Thanksgiving is over, you go back to the killing and you go back to selling drugs. To me, that's what poverty work feels like. Like your Bible fables, you can either teach a man how to fish or you can give him fish. Quit giving us fish when you feel sorry and you want to take pictures of it and document it and say, hey, we gave the fish, versus we gave them the equipment, we gave them the land to build a lake, we gave them the fish to start feeding and to have their own fish. Then we taught them how to fish, harvest the fish, clean the fish, and then package and sell the fish with a restaurant to cook the fish for the people that didn't want to cook. Like there's so many steps that seems to be lost when it comes to rebuilding our community, that the detachment from these foundations makes me feel like you said, you really don't want to fix the problem. And as my friend David famously says from Fonte, you don't want to win. You just want to look good losing.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's PR, right? When you're talking about what's going on?
Toya. Toya needs to undock. So people are busy right now.
Let me tell you, they make sure all my stuff is off and their stuff not on.
But no, I was gonna say that just reminds you, when you think about that, that feels like PR, right? That feels like philanthropy. That feels like how you see foundations handling Haiti, how you see foundations handling countries in Africa. Like just like, yeah, let's go over here, do something real quick, and then come back, and then all the money that's being donated is circulating more so within the foundation, and it's not truly making the change that you think that they're gonna make.
Your point about Haiti reminds me of something. I was in Haiti on a trip, and I was talking to a woman who was a designer, and she was like, "It's so hard here," and I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "There is no Haitian clothing design. It's not a thing because Americans just send down all these clothes in bulk, in mass, and the clothes are just given away. Just given away. You can wear heel figure, whatever. It's just whatever you want. It's just given away to the community. But because of that, it has destroyed the Haitian fashion industry. Because who would buy something when I can be given a polo shirt for free, right? It just doesn't make, it starts to not make sense. And so then there is no like fashion industry there. So she had to come to the US to really learn and do her craft. And so the same people that are helping are hurting the community.
Because that would actually make sense, because you can't give away the stuff that people are robbing, stealing, and killing for. You can't give that away in America because it would then destroy your industry. So you just like, oh, instead of us having to give it away to these homeless people that don't have any clothes and we can't just burn it, let's just ship it to another country and let them have at it.
Yeah.
So it's not high shipping fees, and it's accessible. So it's It's basically a cheap dumpster at the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
No, and to that point, I think Bytes did a series where they talked about that and how there are like landfills in countries in Africa with just clothes that came from like Goodwill, and they burn them, and it just creates pollution because it's just like trash at that point.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. So Brian, 2020 is to me pretty much a wrap. I know you're probably at least 2 years ahead with your planning. What kind of companies are you looking for in the next 6 months as you guys go into your next? And I don't know, how is your cycle of investments? Is it kind of like something dope comes through and y'all jump on it, or are you pacing yourself out where you only look at stuff every once in a while? Like, how do you actually structure that? Because 2,000 applicants, and I know, let's just say if at least 50 of them are amazing and actually fit the requirements, 50% of them, how do you actually manage that? I mean, it's a lot of time management for you, because now that you're LP, you're the money guy now. You're not actually just running a company, a startup. You're the money guy. How do you manage your time now? Because it had to be some kind of mental shift from doing the startup to taking all your wins and your losses and taking that advice. And like you said, being able to look at someone and be like, you made that mistake. And I understand the mistake you made because I remember making that mistake myself, but I also see this greatness in you. How was that mind shift for you, and how long did it take? I kind of think you were already there because you were already frustrated with the way you were being treated. So I know it was always in your mind to do it because you invested in the real estate and other things. But how was that mind shift for you, and how did it go? Sorry, I know that was like a compound.
It's like 5 questions. But the first question about the funnel and how do we think about taking it from 2,000? It's really, and that's 2,000 inbound. We also go outbound too, so it's probably more like 2,500 or something like that. Okay. Companies down to this fund. This $50 million will only invest in 36 companies for the $50 million, right? So it's a crazy drawdown. And company number 37, number 38, company number 40 are completely investable. There's literally nothing wrong with them. They just, in comparison to the other 36, they were the 37th best, right? So they don't get a check.
36 is based off of your staggered approach of that initial investment, the seed, and then the follow-up? Okay.
There's this concept called fund construction, which is really interesting. So basically, if you want to, our goal is to...
Did you come up with that, or did Candace tell you about that? That sounds like a Candace.
Mentorship. I got a lot of good mentorship, including from Candace. So when you, the math to make this work is, these aren't, our investors are not, these aren't gifts, right? These aren't grants. They want their money back plus. And so in a perfect world, if we're lucky, we'll return 3 to 5 times their money in a 10-year period. If you do really well, you do more than that, right? So how do you do that? That means if you have a $50 million fund, you have to kind of create $150+ million of value. And so the way we get to that is we need to sell whatever business that we're in for no less than our share in it is no less than $25 million, right? That's how we kind of make money. So we might make like $500,000 investment, maybe another $1 million, but we want 25 back, right? And 7 years later or some whatever, right? And so basically that gives us 36 chances at $25 million, right? That's the math. That's why you invest in these kinds of funds. And so that's theoretically, if you're picking good companies, if I get 20 right out of 36, right? I don't even know the math. What's 20 times 25 million? I don't know.
Wow, too much for me to do right now unless you want to.
So that's how good it could go.
Okay.
But I've only got to get 2 right to make sure nobody loses any money. Right. So that's how this game works.
So one question I have for you, and it's a comparison to a conversation I've had with a long-term family friend and like a big brother, Kenny Felder, that was in Major League Baseball and one of the only 2 black agents that recruit for Major League Baseball, or that's an agent for Major League Baseball. And one of the things that we were talking about is there's a 50 or under black players in Major League Baseball. But if you look at them, they're all superstars. They're all great. They are not allowed to be mediocre. The rest are some mediocre players and they make it, but people don't look at baseball as much as they should, but contracts out of baseball are $280 million, $350 million contracts.
Yeah.
It's money being spent. Now, then there's a deeper side that money is being spent like that because there's also 162 games, which allows a lot more gambling in baseball than any other sport. Whole different topic to have. But do you feel the pressure to be that superstar because you might not get the forgiveness of others that have these opportunities to invest?
Yeah, I think every Black person who ever did anything in the world feels a responsibility to do that. We don't have that grace. We deserve that grace. We like second-time founders. We like founders that failed the first time because they learned a lot, and we don't have that opportunity enough in our community. We want to know what you learned. We want to know that you really did learn, but we like that a lot. So I definitely feel it. I just think it gives us an edge, though, too, right? It gives us one more reason to be successful, one more reason to stay up an hour later, do a little bit more work, right, to be a little bit better. That's part of our thesis for investing.
And do you think that would open up the doors for other people to see there's more Brian and Candaces in the world to make those opportunities with versus these others that get to fail over and over again, file bankruptcy, and then bounce back with another 100 million?
Yeah, what I love about our work, and Dante, producer extraordinaire, put 500 million is the answer to the math question. Okay. What I love about our work is actually about math, and we actually have a scorecard, right? So we can say, okay, here's other funds that you might have invested in. Here's us, and let's say we do that. Let's say we take a $50 million fund and create $500 million of value. That's just math. Like, that's how good we are, period. And so you can judge me or judge your mama. I don't care, but that's the number, right? And so I like the fact that in VC you have that. Sometimes entrepreneurship you don't have that. So
okay. So you think it's a little bit less bias, even though we know the bias is there for the initial opportunity. The result.
First-time fund managers like us Black first-time fund managers don't usually get a chance because you have to go on faith that person can do it. We were, lucky, skilled, whatever, enough to get it done. George Floyd, all the things we talked about. But after you do it, then it's just, you just send your results to people and you say, this is the results. You want it or not. Like it's really becomes just math.
It just reminds me of Delane. I'm sorry, Toya. The last one is it reminds me of Delane Parnell when he was talking about the fact that as he was one of the youngest Black VCs, but that was also one of the reasons why he left, because he felt like his voice wasn't being heard. And some of the investments that could have been made, they basically turned on it because it was him that discovered it. It was him that found it. It was like, well, how would you know? How did you know? But it's like, that's also the same reason why you hired him, for him to be able to see and know these things. Because I still see a lot of ageism that goes on in our society where it's like, you're too young to know as much as you know.
If I knew what I knew now, I would have quit my job at Kairos, hired Delane, started a venture fund, and made $1 bajillion. That guy, he knows businesses inside and out. I mean, he's doing a great job with his own. But our senior analyst, Alexis Alston, who you can see on our show, Twitch Pitch, she is the same kind of skill set. She knows the company inside and out, knows industry. She can pick a winner. It's a gift, and a lot of young Black VC analysts have that gift. They're not given opportunity.
Mm. But that kind of goes to the question I was going to ask: is there support within the Black VC community? Like, do you guys sort of meet? Do you collaborate? Do you talk? Do you discuss? Do you share? Because you're a small minority, and I hate that word, in the industry, right? So just sort of how you arm up to make sure that you can take advantage of opportunities.
Who else is there besides Backstage Capital and you guys? Who else?
There's about 30 or so. Yeah, there's about 30 or so. But the answer is yes. We're on Slacks. We text each other. I got an email the other day about potentially doing some deal flow with everybody, kind of showing all the deals to each other, that kind of thing. Work with Black angel groups as well to kind of like graduate up to us. And I would say so. I would say there's a lot of that, to be honest with you. There's just not enough of us. There should be 200, 500, 1,000 Black VCs. There's only 30 or 40. But
I'm going to say 30. Y'all don't even have enough for an NFL team.
No, we don't. I mean, we're the only one of this size. Well, we're the largest Black fund ever raised by a woman ever.
Wow.
So that's first thing. The second thing, we're the only one of this size in the whole Midwest. So 20 states, we're the only one. Candace is the only Black woman investor in Ohio, Kentucky, Eastern Pennsylvania, Nashville, Indiana. Like she's the only one in like most of the states that we cover.
So what's the
basically saying we should have had her on the show, not you?
Yes, you got me bumming here.
We'll get her the next time. We know she's the really busy one.
She's busy, yeah. I'm just hanging out. So
you're busy. So if there's anything that you want the general public to do, like what do we need to do to make sure, besides giving you the exposure that you deserve? And I think I took kindly to what you said yesterday. So I am reaching out to Netflix for you because I know what you want to do is your show does need to be a Netflix documentary or it needs to be an educational program because you guys give much more information than Shark Tank ever could, because Shark Tank isn't realistic of how those pitches really go. So I know why you want to get on Netflix. I'm working on that part for you. But what do we need to do in the general public to be able to support Lightship Capital and the things that you guys are doing?
Well, certainly follow us on all of our stuff, Twitter, what have you, because we have asks on there. Like my Twitter, like I'll ask people like, this is what I need help with. Mm-hmm. We're gonna be doing some things in cities like Detroit and Cincinnati and Tulsa. So please come out and support those things. We're looking at having like a physical space for pop-up where we bring all of our brands, all the companies that we work with or invest in or whatever, so people can buy and use those things. And I want a bunch of Miami brands to be in some of these spaces as well. So we'll talk about that. And yeah, I think that's, and then also if you know anybody's got a great business, have them go to lightship.capital and there's an apply for funding button. We don't take warm intros. You don't have to call me. You don't have to email me. You don't have to slide in my DMs. Just go to the website, apply for funding. We look at every single application, and every company you heard about today went through that same process. It's the only process we do, to be fair, and remove bias, because it's not about who you know. Like, oh, well, I don't know Toya, so I can't get to Brian, right? If you have a great idea, you should be able to go to my website and upload your deck, and that's good enough for us. So lightship.capital is the website. Apply there.
Toya, unless you have a question, I like the upliftment. Peace King again. Like, I'm proud of you. I'm happy to know you as a friend. I'm just excited that you guys are what you're doing. I think the only other question I had, like, if you're the largest, where does everybody else fall next to you? Are most of them like $10 million funds, 20? Like, how far apart did you separate yourself from the pack by doing 50 million?
Well, I'll answer that. I'll have the producer extraordinaire, if you could drop my @Brian Brackeen in the chat so people can follow me. I'm so close to 10,000. I'm so close.
We'll push you over that. We'll make sure it happens.
Yes. So hopefully this show is going to get us there. Most Black funds, 80% are less than $10 million. There's another 15% that are 20 million and less. And there's a couple, there's like 2 or 3 that are $100 million, but they don't invest in Black companies. They only invest in white companies.
Yeah, we know that guy.
Yeah. So I'm not interested. So as far as Black people focusing on, Black and other minorities, right? There's just one, and everyone else is mostly much smaller.
So you've pretty much tripled or doubled what most people have with your
and because we're in the Midwest and South, and everybody thinks that they're all going to sit in San Francisco and where they're hated, and magically they have a hard time raising the fund. Well, guess what? I'm so tired of all Black entrepreneurship being focused in San Francisco when so few Black people live in San Francisco. So few, like the majority of Black people live east of the Mississippi, right? Then there's a whole other group in Texas and that kind of thing. But as far as you get past like Colorado or whatever, it's just a small number. But that group would tell you the universe of Black entrepreneurship is right here in San Fran. It's insane.
And I want people to understand we didn't have a demographic, geographic conversation with Brian Brackeen because that would have been the show. We would have just had to sit back and listen to him talk, because if you follow him, you will see exactly how he feels about New York, exactly how he feels about California. That's a whole different truth, but you predicted it. You said it was going to happen, and it's now happening. You're talking about billions of dollars are picking up and leaving New York and coming to Miami. I'm not a huge fan of Miami for certain things that are above the scope of what most people see. It's because of personal things for our community, but there's no other place like Miami right now. Miami is just on a whole different level. But you got to understand also, people, when you talk about money, Miami is Key West to Palm Beach. It's not just Dade County. It's a whole different world. When you talk
it's South Florida.
Yeah,
Right.
South Florida when it comes down to money. So you can be in Palm Beach. They're like, "Oh, we meet in Miami." For us, no, but for them, yeah.
Oh, they think we're broke in Miami and Palm Beach. That's
It's a whole different world.
Oh,
Go ahead, Toy. You want to close this out with another?
No. The question I was just going to ask is, because the Black VC world is so small, what advice do you have for someone who wants to get into it, like the pipeline? How can we increase it? Because there are enough Black people who make enough money to be able to invest in Black businesses.
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One, if you're new to investment, start with a Black Angel group. There's a new one called Black Angels Miami, which is great. Join that. It's at blackangels.miami. We actually proud supporters. We actually built the site for them, so we're trying to help to create this kind of funnel, right, to us. And if you do have experience investing, start a fund. Like, there's literally nothing stopping you. Like, follow paperwork and start. Just like we always tell an entrepreneur, start and pick a high number and just go for that number. Yeah, I mean, that's what we did. We just started, and then now we're here.
That was easy. Nice.
Yeah, we did the logo since you shot that you did the website. Just want to put that out.
Well, there you go. See, this group right here, we're making it happen. We're making it happen out here.
Well, Brian, I appreciate your time. Definitely appreciate your knowledge. I think we got to have you back on before the end of the year. I think it would be great to get a recap, because you got Queensbridge Ventures, you got Jay-Z's group, you got a lot of people that are doing things, but people don't understand those groups still have other people in it. They just have their names attached to it. So to be the first and to be the biggest of this size, roses to you. We're not going to wait to tell you how much we admire you. Like, oh, he's gone now. He was a great. No, I'm telling you now, you're a great man.
Where'd I go?
Right. So we thank you for your time. Make sure you stay in the back room. I got some news I need to share with you that you can do exclusive. This one I can't do online, but we got some stuff we'll share as soon as we get to the backstage. But that's Toya.
That's Mike. This is Tech Beats and Bytes.